I want to talk about one of my favorite forms of meditation today, and it has absolutely nothing to do with sitting with your eyes closed, crisscross applesauce. That's one form of meditation, and I do that, but it is not the most effective form that I've found. And I want to talk about this kind of meditation because it is particularly important for anyone that is trying to live a spiritual life in the modern world. And particularly somebody that finds themselves in an urban environment, in a city, which is the vast majority of us. And you don't really have a temple or a monastery or an ashram, some kind of religious structure around you to help you focus your practice. This is one of the biggest challenges of trying to live a spiritual life in the modern world. We don't really emphasize or cultivate that in the same kinds of ways that maybe in other societies or past societies, where the life of a monastic, the life of a monk, the life of somebody who dedicates themselves to a religious path is really valued and valuable. Today you can have a spiritual experience on Saturday or Sunday, and then have to wake up and be in the office on Monday. And there's this kind of whiplash of having these big openings and realizations, and then being drawn back into the structure of money making, of capitalism, of and it's not just capitalism; it's just the demands of our daily life, which can oftentimes feel very profane and sometimes lifeless compared to the openings and the spiritual energy that comes with real realizations. So, how do we live in the modern world when we have all this distraction, all of this lack of structure? And my answer to this is that instead of going off to India or to Japan or to Bangladesh and finding yourself a temple or a guru to work with, make your life into a temple. Make your own life into the kind of spiritual and religious structure that you need in order to continue doing your work. And when we do this, basically we create and craft the temple in space and time. It's kind of like the notion of shabbat in the Jewish tradition. Rabbi Heschel talked about it as a kind of temple in time, where every Sabbath, every Saturday, Friday evening to Saturday evening in the Jewish tradition, that time is set aside and made into a sacred time. It is made into holy time, where everything you do is made holy simply by the fact that it is in that space-time. So taking that same idea and transferring it here, what I'm talking about when I say to make a temple of your life, it is to make yourself the kind of central axis around which the sacred space-time of your life revolves. And when that happens, then everything around you, every person that comes into your space, everything that you see and meet becomes sacred by virtue of being part of this temple that you have created with your mind and with your spirit. The advantage to this is that it really you take your temple with you wherever you go. And it really starts to make you realize the truth of what mystics and different spiritual traditions talk about when they say that everything is sacred. You really start to realize that, oh wow, the rain falling down is falling into this temple. I am in this cathedral of rain right now. Or you're walking just on the street and you're noticing, oh wow, the street lamps, they look like feel like columns. Like this beautiful light is coming down. The miracle of this electricity, the miracle of the cooperation that is taken to create and craft and make this garden of humanity around me. You start to really look for and find and experience everything that arises around you and in front of you as part of this sacred space. And that includes, as I said, the people that you come into contact with, the people that come, along the path. You can see them, oh, well, this is another person in this temple. Maybe they're an angel or a deity or some other practitioner or worshiper. We start to see, as Gandhi said, if you can't see God in the next person you meet, don't look any further. And, making a temple of your life is a way of really bringing this perspective of divinity is right in front of me. Divinity is all around me. Where is it? How can I see through the illusion? Can I see through the labels that my mind is placing on this? And can I see the real shining light of whatever is in front of me? Whether it's a stranger, a building, or even some dog shit. There's a story of particular Indian sage that a teacher of mine told, where I think it was Ramana Maharshi, but I'm not sure. He was walking with some students in Calcutta, and Calcutta was known to be a very dirty city. And they're walking through these streets, and just trash everywhere. It wasn't very well kept. And one of his students says, "How can this be sacred? How can this also? Is this also sacred? How can that be?" And the teacher said, "Yeah, even this is sacred." And then one of the students pointed to some dog shit on the ground and said, "Well, what about that?" And then Ramana Maharshi goes up to it, takes a finger, dips it in the dog shit, and goes, delicious, sacred. And yeah, it's got shock value, but that's the essence of what non-duality is pointing to. That is the essence of really the oneness, the non-separation that the core of every spiritual tradition is trying to help us to realize, is that there is no division. Everything is sacred around us, provided that we have the eyes to see it. So at the start of this video, I said that I would share a particular meditation that I like to use, that I find very powerful. And it's actually related to this idea of making our life into a temple. And this meditation is something that I call deep listening. And deep listening is exactly what it sounds like. It's about listening deeply. But instead of listening to the inner world, which is usually what meditation prompts us to do, we listen deeply to the world around us. We listen deeply to what is outside of us. And this is something that I started to do just instinctively when I was younger, probably middle school, high school, in my teenage years. What I would do is I would go out, either usually in the evening time when there weren't many people around, and I would wander through the streets around my house, sometimes go to this green space that was near my house, and I would just walk by the trees, walk through the grass, walk under the stars, and I would listen as intently as possible. And I would listen to all the sounds around me, noticing their distance from me, noticing the shapes of the soundscape that I was in, particularly listening to the silence. And it's not so much about listening for the noises, the birds or the wind that's there, but it's listening between that and past that to the underlying silence that all of these noises emerge from. And it's not just about listening with your ears. It's about listening with your eyes. It's about listening with your entire body. It's like your body becomes a kind of microphone, or like a Geiger counter, or some kind of earthquake measure. Just you feel the slightest movements, the slightest tremors, and you hear everything like in high definition. And again, it's a very simple practice. You go out and you listen for the silence. You listen for the silence behind all things. And you listen with your ears, with your eyes, with all of your senses, your skin, your bones. You listen that deeply. And when you do that, something interesting starts to happen. Your mind goes quiet. When you're really listening that intently, there's nothing in the mind. You're listening almost like a hunter for a herd, or listening for some predator out in the jungle. You're listening that intently. And what you're really listening for is you're listening for the divine, which is that silence, that nothingness, that emptiness, that all that lies behind all things. And it's almost as if you're waiting for it, you're waiting for God to break through a window, or to break through the moon, or break out onto you, and almost as if he's going to attack you or sweep you off your feet. And again, he is in a kind of metaphorical, anthropomorphized sense. But it's that alertness, almost like you are engaging in a hunt for that which is transcendent, and you're looking for it, and you're seeking it, and you're going to find it. And so you become this very still hunter of the divine. And you start to notice things in a very different way. The light bulb in a street lamp takes on a kind of supernatural quality. The shadows, of trees and plants start to feel deeper than they have ever felt before. And you start to feel the world around you as if there is, no separation. It feels like a little bit like in a dream, but you're totally awake. In fact, you are more awake than maybe you've ever been in your waking life. You're that attuned, that alert, that present to what is happening around you. And you'll start to notice that when you settle into this form of listening, you may just stop. You may have been walking a little bit. The point is not to walk. The point is not to get anywhere. The point is to go and listen and stop. Whenever you hear this silence, stop and listen to it. For as long as it speaks to you, for as long as it feels like you're gaining and taking something from it, almost like your cells are feeding off of this silence, this openness. It's liberating, it's energizing. And allow the silence to guide you. Allow the silence to pull you to the quiet places. When I'm doing this practice, I do this almost every evening. I go out even for 5-10 minutes, sometimes half an hour or more, depending on what it feels like. I let the silence guide me. I follow it into the quiet places. And this is powerful for a number of reasons as well, because when we go into the quiet places, we can hear the silence more clearly. But also, we are usually going away from other people, from cars and traffic, from pedestrians walking around, from the people seeing or hearing you. And when we are moving away from other people and going into a space of silence and separation and aloneness with the world, we're also relaxing. We're no longer feeling the pressure and the energies and the expectations of what it means to be a person in society. And in doing that, we start to be free of a lot of this kind of energetic pressure and etiquette of, well, you have to kind of, if you're walking outside, you got to keep walking. It's weird to just stand there and look up at the stars, which I do all the time. It doesn't matter if somebody sees me stopped in the middle of a street looking up at the stars. If I'm hearing the silence, I stop and I listen. And I listen for as long as I can hear it. And I'm not saying that you have to do this from the very get-go, but I'm saying that the more that you practice this, the less that other people's expectations, the etiquette, and the pressures of society, the less that matters to you. Because in hearing the divine speaking in this silence, in this nothingness, in this vastness, everything else gets the volume turned down. And all of the anxieties, all the fears, all the expectations that we have on ourselves, that other people have for us, it flattens out. And you're left alone with what really matters. And when you come to that place, rest there. There's nothing to do when you get there. And getting there is not walking to some far place. It could be that you are attracted to a sacred space. I like to go to green fields, to the railroad tracks near my house. Anywhere you can find the sacred. When you find it, rest there. Settle into your bones. Let it settle like a silt into your cells. Take that in, let it build. Soak it in. Breathe. And become deeper with this silence running through you like a river running through a canyon. Let it make you deeper and deeper. This way of meditating, I have found to be far more useful, far more powerful than any other form that I've worked with. And it's powerful for a number of reasons. But I hope that when you try it, you'll start to feel and sense just how quickly it gets you to the heart of the world. And, the goal, I think a lot of people think the goal of meditation is to be without thoughts, which, depends on what form of meditation you're practicing. There are different things that meditation can be used for. But this form, this deep listening, it gets you there. When you've practiced it a little bit, it gets you there almost instantly. Because when we're really listening, there's no room for thought. Our mind goes completely blank, becomes like a needle, just receiving from the world. And when we're receiving in this way, we're also receiving the deeper significance, the deeper truth of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a sentient being, a part of this universe. And it's one of the most healing and profound things And just to bring it full circle, when you do this kind of deep listening practice, you will naturally start to feel and notice that the world around you takes on the qualities of a temple. The world around you feels like a sacred space. When you are listening deeply for the silence and the truth within all things, that sacredness becomes evident. In some ways, luminous. And you can rest in the peace of knowing and really feeling the divinity in all things around you. If this is something that you try, I'd love to hear what your experience is like with it. Drop a comment in the comments section if you have done something like this, or if you experiment with this on your own. Let me know how it goes. Again, this is probably the most powerful form of meditation that I know and work with. And I think it has a lot of potential to cut through a lot of the thought and a lot of the concepts that we have that keep us separated from that sense of non-separation, that sense of non-duality and union.